Hello, folks. My name is Shubhra Ghosh. I've been a CISO for 18 years, mostly in financial services. And I got into information security just by being at the right place at the right time.
So the Cyber Maryland program is very important for an organization like Eagle Bank.
Cybersecurity is a top concern for banking directors and CEOs across the nation. So if you had $1 to spend in cybersecurity, what you would do is identify your most critical of applications. Get a compliance scanner to actually scan the entire stack. And that is not only just the OS, which most people do, starting from the network to the operating system, to the database, to the middleware, to the application, and come up with a full list of vulnerabilities and then come up with a program to address those. If you don't, there is nothing that you can do to really address it.
Hi, are you a leader who's looking forward to actually grow into a very senior role? Maybe you'd like to be a global CXO, right? Which basically means if you're aspiring to become a CTO, a CIO, a CDO, a CISO, a chief operating officer, a CMO, a CFO, or any other C-suite role, then you shouldn't be missing this opportunity. Because what has got you here till today, wherever you are, is not going to get you to those senior level roles. You know why? Because the skills are completely different. What might have got you here is hard work and technical skills, but that alone is not going to get you to the next level, right? So what you need to build is a whole basket of leadership and CXO skills. And what is that, you may ask, right? It could be executive presence, executive communication, stakeholder management, networking at a senior level, learning to handle conflict, learning to handle politics. All those skills are required when you want to get to that level. I'm planning a physical event in Bangalore. Mark your calendar, it's on May 3rd. But before that, we're going to have 5 days where we're actually going to be mentoring you and giving you quizzes and preparing you for what is to come on the 6th day, which is May 3rd, Bangalore. So what I want you to do is, without wasting any time, click on the link below and book your ticket right away, because I can tell you, as it fills up, the ticket prices are going to go up. So don't miss this opportunity. Click, buy your ticket, and I'm really looking forward to seeing you. Hi, I'm Muditsaxena. I'm a global CXO leadership coach. I work with leaders across the country, and I've impacted thousands of leaders across the world. In our community, people have become CEOs. People have become CXOs. Many people earn more than 1 CR. People have got 100% jump. People have got, within the company, they've got jumps. So whether it's a salary increase, a promotion, you name it, you're going to find it in my community. And that's why I want you to welcome you to come in here. And I want you to build your network so that you are able to get opportunities which are not readily advertised. So come here, build your network, learn from the best, and I hope to see you in Bangalore on May 3rd. Take care till we meet again. Okay, good morning, good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, whichever part of the world you're logging into. And it's such a pleasure to have all of you here. And today we're also privileged to have, our chief guest today, the one and only Shupati Ghosh. And Shupro, welcome to the show. Great. So great to have you, Shupro. Can you hear us?
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yes, we can. Yeah, great.
Excellent.
So thanks so much for making time. I understand you're traveling and you've still made time for this program. So thank you so much for coming in.
Thank you very much for inviting me.
So just, to get started, maybe you'd like to tell some of our viewers a little bit about yourself because they've seen a lot, but they want to know the real Shupati.
Well, first, thank you very much, Mudit, for inviting me into this forum. My story is actually not very complex. I grew up in Kolkata, did my schooling in Lamatnia. Then I did my engineering at Birla Institute of Technology, Mestra, Ranchi. Then I did a postgraduate course at IIM Kolkata. And then I did a technology management degree from the University of Illinois at Urbana-Champaign. It was a tough time at that in '93 getting a job, but I was hired from campus. And I was part of the 1993 cohort of the Citibank Global Management Program. The Global Management Associate Program is one that is, as the word goes, global. It has people from all over the world. My cohort had 330 people, and we all met in 399 Park Avenue with John Reed, our CEO, kind of kicking it off. Then I worked in Citi from 93 to 99, did a startup from 99 to 2003. Unfortunately, the startup did start up, but it didn't go into third gear. So I decided to move on, joined as the head of networks at NASD NASDAQ. And 8 years later, when I left, I was the CISO of NASD, which was now called FINRA. Then worked at Microsoft, Visa. I was the CISO at RBS Americas, which is Royal Bank of Scotland. Did a lot of trips to Gurgaon at that time because we had a very big unit over there. For a little while, I was the global CISO with the remit all the way from Japan to Utah. Most recently, I was a CISO at a mid-sized bank, NASDAQ-listed bank called Eagle Bank. Since then, I have become a CISO advisor. I run my own advisory practice called Graphene. I have 2 sons, both in technology and working. And my wife and I live in Washington, D.C. for the last 32 years. So that's my story.
Oh, amazing, amazing, amazing. It's great to hear, Kolkata, BITS, Mestra, and, and then such an illustrious career in the US, and you've been living there. And it's such a pleasure to hear that. So tell us, what really, from a global associate, right, at Citibank with 330 people, and I'm sure so many thousands would have joined at that time, right? What do you think is really, when you look back at your career, right, what do you see as a couple of things that really helped you get to where you have been?
Well, there's a whole bunch of different things, okay? And as the video said, luck is important. And being at the right time, right place at the right time is important. So I joined Citibank, and when I joined, I was, so it's the Global Management Associate Program, and you have rotations. So I did my rotation initially in the Lotus Notes. Remember, this is 93, so Lotus Notes was very big. Lotus Notes, and then X400, which is the messaging backbone, very, very techy roles. And then in their LAN group, LAN networking. And finally, what happened is I could have joined one of these groups, but out of the blue came an opportunity. And that was, there was this thing that Citibank was being forced to connect to called the internet. And this was back in '94 when there was a push to connect Citibank to the internet, and there weren't too many people around who knew about the internet or even knew how it worked. luckily, having just graduated from the university, and in the university, I used to run part of the backbone engineering. By the way, the reason I got into Citibank is not because of my degree. The only reason I got in is because when they came to hire, um, on campus, I was one of the very few people who had installed 5 Novell networks. Okay. Now remember, this is 92. 92, Novell was like hot, really hot. Okay. And when they came in 92 and they see this guy on a campus who's installed 5 different networks in different departments and knew a lot of the advanced Novell stuff, they said, we got to hire this guy. Okay. So it's not always the degree that gets you, it's what you're doing with your degree that's very, very important, the stuff that's all around it. Okay. And I've always worked, while I was in grad school, I had like 3 jobs, all installing these Novell networks. But going back to the story, so when Citi hired me and they said, okay, we are starting up this internet group and we'd like to have someone who can help us get connected to the internet, secure it, and everything that comes with it. It was an opportunity. Now, I could have stepped away and let someone else take it. But, I was young, I was foolish, and I said, yes, I'm going to do this. And it was a challenge because when I went to engineering school, though I'm an electrical engineer, I've actually checked with my electronics colleagues too, my folks who were on the electronics side and communications. TCP/IP was not taught. Okay, so while I was at Citi, I'd already learned TCP/IP, and while I was working in the backbone engineering team at in my university, I'd also learned TCP/IP, but I didn't know a lot of the protocols that went on TCP/IP. So I tried to learn all that. There's a series of books called O'Reilly. I got all those books. I really, really educated myself, and I took that opportunity. And then we went through and deployed the Citi network, and there was it was a pretty successful endeavor. So long story short is that the fact that I was given that opportunity, the fact that I was had some of the technical knowledge, I could spell TCP/IP and I could speak a little bit about it, was important. And the fact that I said, okay, let's take this opportunity and try and make the best out of it.
Okay, fantastic. I mean, amazing story. So I think what I've taken away, an important thing there is it's not just your certificates and your academic, it's what you can actually do with it, right? And you invested a lot of time in learning and actually getting hands-on, trying to fix these networks and the protocols. And I think that's what really helped you, in addition to of course all your education, etc., to get ahead. Would that be correct?
Yeah, that's right.
Okay. Fantastic. I'm glad, for a while with that lovely beach, I thought you were, reclining on a beach chair. Would you like to pull the computer a bit? Because you're almost there on that. Okay, great. So that was Citi. And then, what happened after that?
So I joined Citi, spent 7 years there. Then this was late, almost Y2K. And a bunch of us were chatting, and I got to know some people, and there was a novel concept that we came up with. And we got together, and we started a startup. We were still working. We used to work 9 to 5, and then from 5 to 10 for almost 6 months. And we created the startup. The startup, basically, at some point, we were able to get the seed capital. We were able to, from 99 to 2003, the 4 years that I spent in my startup, I raised 3 rounds of capital. Market was very, very tight at that time. Very tight. 9/11 had happened. Our product was a software infrastructure product, and we did sales, but where we were doing sales in the single figures, we should have been doing it in probably triple figures, which didn't happen. So the amount of investment we needed in the company and the amount of size of the team that we needed to deliver was not sufficient. And so our VC decided to merge our company with two other companies, and I moved on. And as I mentioned, I got a senior director role with NASD NASDAQ, now called FINRA. And then from the network team, I initially took the network team, and information security was very, very important. And they really didn't have anyone over there who could do information security. And I'd already worked in information security in Citibank, so I kind of pulled a short straw there. And I was given the opportunity to actually become the CISO. So I interviewed, got the role. And since then, I've been CISO at several other organizations. But I think really getting that first CISO role was at NASD NASDAQ. And it was because of some of the work that I'd done by it then at Citi, because Citi's, it's a great brand name. And very, very, it's a place where it's tough getting in. And once you're in, if you're making it up the ranks, it's like P&G, like in marketing. Or levers, if you're making it up the ranks, then you're doing something right. And I'm sure we're going to be talking a bit more about that.
Sure. So great, amazing. So you took a leap of faith into a startup, and then back again into a corporate role. So what would you have learned, right, in a startup that you never learned in a big corporate job?
Humility, getting slapped in the face. So, when people ask you, what did you learn from your startup? I'm actually featured in a book, okay? And in that book, this book is called The Washington Dinner Club. And Washington Dinner Club is a group of, this is a very, very, remember, this is late 90s, right? These are all the tech glitterati of the Washington, D.C. area. And what they do is they would get together, and they had their own venture fund that they had seeded. So people had put in like 5-10 million, and there were like about 20-25 of them. It was about $100 million fund. And they just did seed. And in order to get to present to these people, and these are the people like Steve Case of AOL, Jim Kimsey of AOL, Michael Saylor of MicroStrategy, Mario Marino of Legent, you had Raj Singh of Teligent, Rajendra Singh of LCC, whole bunch of people, a lot of people from AOL, PSINet, the internet, the folks who had made a lot of money on the internet. And in order to get to that, you had to go through 4 rounds of interviews. So you had to work on your elevator pitch, you had to work on your financials, you had to work with every curveball that can be thrown at you, and you had to really kind of be thinking on your feet. So the training that we went through was absolutely crucial. I went through going through these 4 rounds. We had training coaches, we had people helping us, trying to respond to things and also coming up with answers that were succinct and to the point. So that was a great learning. Also, just having the opportunity to present in 10 minutes. So you have 5 minutes to actually present and 5 minutes for Q&A. So in 5 minutes, you're giving your whole business plan. And remember, the higher that you are in management, the more ADHD you have, okay? So that's additional deficit order. So if you haven't got them, and if you haven't got the hook in very quickly, you lost them. So I had to really get some key words in there and get the interest. The long story short again of that is that we presented, and I was told that watch out, if Michael Saylor goes for the salt and pepper, that might be coming towards you. So I was right to duck. Unfortunately, I got a favorable review in the book. So, oh, by the way, I forgot to mention, there was a journalist from Washington Post who was actually sitting in the room too. She was writing a book on this dinner club because it was so novel. And she was in the room and she covers me in the book. Okay. And I got a favorable review in the book. Unfortunately, my CEO, I was the chief operating officer, my CEO didn't get a very good review because of his posture. This is a takeaway. Okay. Posture is so important. When you're talking and you are addressing an audience, the posture you have, okay? Like right now I'm sitting on the beach, maybe not the right posture to have, but it's very important. And that's why I'm sure, Mudit, you cover this, your hand motion, it's a total package. When you are presenting, they look at you in a 360 degree. And that was my learning. I can't tell you how important that was when I read the book review. I'm like, oh my God, we spent 2 months in presenting their pitch. And what did they focus on? That my CEO was actually leaning on the wall. That was like mind-boggling. So, but that's how life is. You know, these little things. If my CEO was not leaning on the wall, if he was at attention, it might have been a different story. Okay. But we all learn from our mistakes. And guess what? There's one thing I have is a good story.
Amazing, amazing. It's strange how you bring this up because we were just discussing this this morning in our class of, where we do speech practice and we all look and we were talking about posture and, screen presence and the kind of words that you use. So it's amazing that you bring that up. And I'm sure all the viewers here who are from my cohort and from my would be just loving this. They just did this and they've so thank you. It's kind of reinforced what we do in class.
Good. Then I get some candy from you at the end.
Yes, absolutely. Much more. No, superb. So, I think one of the key takeaways here is when you don't have that brand, behind you of Citibank and everything, and you're on your own, right? You've got to really learn and the art of making that pitch. I think time and again, right? How important is that even in your corporate career? Maybe you'd like to share that because I think there's really something in there.
Could you repeat that question, please?
Yeah, when you talked about making that pitch, so we talked about moving from city to a startup, right? So complete, like you said, humility. You don't have any badge, as typical Indians, at least I know we used to associate ourselves with the company that we work with, right? That gives us our social kind of presence, right? But you chose to sort of move out and start something. And one of the key lessons you mentioned was, learning how to make that pitch because CEOs and, people at that level, like you jokingly said, have very, very high levels of ADHD, right? So how important was that skill even in your corporate career is what I'd like to know.
So I'm actually going to go back to my my startup days, right? So there were a lot of takeaways, now that I think about it. One of the things that we had to do is go to a lot of VCs, right? Getting to a VC is not easy. And I used to go to a lot of social events and I got to know them. So at the end of the day, they knew who I was before I even actually picked up the phone and called them. I used to chat with them. I used to socialize with them. They knew me. And when I finally made the call, it was not someone out of the blue. Okay. So networking and also prepare, look at their portfolio. When you go in and you see that there might be these 10 VCs over there, know about it, do your work, you just can't wing it all the time. Now, if you're, a master salesman, yes, you can, but most of us aren't. So what we have to do is when we are going into a scenario, if any of you are going to an event this evening and you want to get something out of that event, prepare. See who's there because the conversation you have with them, you're not going to get more than 2 or 3 minutes. If you make that one, initially you might get just a minute, but from a minute, if you want to make it into 5 minutes, into a 10-minute conversation where he remembers you, have things that they've done and make it relevant. Okay, talk about their last investment. Talk about how someone else has done the investment, the synergies. Talk about that you understand products. Talk about that you understand the business. Am I talking about things that you just have talked about in your class again?
Yes, I mean, one of the things we also discuss in the program is, of course, building your network, but
Yeah.
building the skills to build that conversation. And of course, there are, like you said, many of us, and especially people in the tech field, right? I'm just saying that in the technology world, you're more, I would say, a little more inner driven, right? It's the computer. You're more cerebral. You believe in technology, science, and all of that. So building that external game of learning how to speak, how to pitch, it probably doesn't come so naturally to many. I'm just talking of the majority. So I think this is a fantastic skill that you brought around, because you actually get just that many seconds to pitch to any senior person, right? Otherwise, you've lost them. So I think
Yeah,
it's
and also relevant pitch, right? It has to resonate with them.
yeah.
Because initially you have a conversation. If you're having a cocktail conversation with someone, it's an initial conversation, blah, blah, blah. Okay, what's the follow-on? What's the next question? What's the next question? Because at some point, you got to shut up. You got to let the other person talk. Okay, the more they're talking and you're listening, you've won that guy over.
Yeah, yeah. I think that's a relevant takeaway for a lot of us who think that, extroverts do it very well because they talk a lot. And I think it's quite to the contrary, because extroverts very often talk too much, right? And the important thing in building any trust and relationship is to let the other person talk. So I think that's a great takeaway, that the community should take away, and as well as the fact that you need to network a lot more, and therefore, at this point, since you brought out this, I'm going to ask my team to just put on a little, opportunity where people can get to network. So, team, can you just share that video, please? So while they get that on, just on the networking piece, right? What other opportunities would you think there are to, that, let's say, mid-career leaders should build to network?
Well, there are quite a few. And one of the ones that can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay. So there are quite a few. And, networking is not only just technical. There are other aspects to it too. Just going and working in some of your associations. Like, I mean, I've lived most of my life in information security. So, a lot of my examples and a lot of my suggestions are going to be probably from the information security world. But like, for example, I have been part of working groups like the ISACA or the ISC2 or the ISSA. Some of you are PMPs, so I don't know if you guys have PMI chapters. CSI Institute has some. Also, there are a lot of speaker clubs. I don't know how popular Toastmasters is here, but Toastmasters is a great place because you get people critiquing you, okay? And a long time ago, my wife used to this is like almost 25 years ago, my wife joined Toastmasters. She was one of the very first. And we used to do the cons for her. Okay, how many times you say that, okay? And that's very important because it shows whether you are a confident speaker or you're not. I mean, I do it sometimes too. It's natural, you're not going to forget it all. Sometimes it just comes to you naturally. And then just working in other industry working groups, getting into industry working groups. If there are some cross-functional working groups, if you're in financial services, if you're in food and beverage, there are always industry working groups. Get into the industry working group, be part of that. Now, this helps you different ways too. This also gets you insight, and you are thinking strategically, and you are working on what other people are doing, and you get that kind of knowledge too. But besides that, it also positions you for the ability to actually speak to an audience. It prepares you for improving your comm skills, your leadership skills, because you might be in one of the committees over there, and that's looked at favorably. And just focus on the big picture and align your efforts to map to those.
Super, super. So we'll just get the team to play a video for us now. And are you a mid-career leader who's just been wondering when you're going to get that break, when you're going to get to those senior CXO levels or senior leadership roles in your company? Well, it's time to stop waiting and start taking action. The first thing you can do is to sign up below for the Global CXO Accelerator Summit that's happening in Bangalore on May 3rd and 4th. Why, you may ask? Because we are getting the world's best down here for you so that you can learn from their journeys, ask them questions live, and figure out what's stopping you from getting to those senior levels. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, we've got leaders coming in from Silicon Valley, we've got the leaders from India, and they're all here to support you. It doesn't matter whether you're in IT or finance or consulting or operations or production, because these leaders have all the answers. You must realize that after a certain time, it's leadership skills that take you ahead. So sign up below for our summit on May 3rd and 4th, and I'll see you then. Okay, welcome back. I just thought that this was an opportunity for a lot of people to network, right? So this is one of those, events. So I thought that would be so relevant to the point that you made. And that's why we have that. Yeah. So I'm really going to invite, all of you who are watching this show, wherever you are. This is a global event. We have a lot of, like I mentioned to you, a lot of leaders from Silicon Valley. We have CEOs from India. We have, a lot of very senior leaders who are here to actually, share their knowledge, just like Shupro is here about how he sort of moved up the ladder, right? And if you're a mid-career leader or a senior person, this is just something that you wanted. So thanks. I see Suraj wants to know where the details are. I'm just going to ask my team to put the link for the event, and you all can have a look as I continue with Shupro. So great, Shupro. One of the things you mentioned was, your role at NASDAQ, where you joined in at a senior director, and then you made it to that CISO level, right? That first time you got that break into the CISO. So, a lot of mid-career leaders who are watching here really want to can really tell them what is it that it takes to move from that mid-career leader to the CISO or the CXO level.
So I think one thing is very important. You have to enjoy what you do. We spend a lot of time at work, right? If you're not enjoying it, you're in the wrong career. I'm sorry, but that's true. Because if you are not passionate about what you do, and if it doesn't show in through your work, you're not going to put in the effort. And effort is constant learning. Constant learning. You are learning every day, and I do that every day. I'm learning from my peers. I learn from a lot of interactions I have. I mean, every meeting when I see someone else presenting, I'm wondering, and if there's something they've done good, I write it down. Because you should be always learning from others. Never have the attitude you know it all, because you don't. None of us do. So be passionate about what you do, constant learning, follow the trends. What's happening, okay? And that is done by a lot of reading. And the most important thing is to anticipate your organizational need. The ability to gauge expectation, project future demand, and have the strategic foresight is very, very important. So if you're in a meeting, you have to be perceived as the expert who is always ahead of the curve. Oh, Shupra knows this, or Mudit knows this. I'm going to pick another name. Rajesh knows it. okay? Because he's always kind of reading and knowing about things. Like if this was a couple of years ago and there was a conversation about crypto, Rajesh is read up on crypto, and Rajesh can give us a thing. So know what the trend is, and try and be forward thinking, the visionary who can kind of predict what your boss or your CIO or your CTO or whoever you work for would want next. Not next week, but next month, next quarter. So be ahead of the curve, prepare, okay? And when you go into that meeting, and if you have the data, now it doesn't have to be 100%, you don't have to be the PhD in it. Have a basic understanding so you can actually speak to it, right? Like, I'm just going to give you an example. All of you are kind of related to technology. India's just going through a whole Data Privacy Act, DPDP. What does DPDP mean for you? What does DPDP mean for your customers? Have you started working on helping your customers comply with DPDP? Have you, as an organization, come up with the plans to comply with DPDP? Now, take this conversation back. Today, yes, probably you have, because it's in rulemaking stage. Now, take this back 2 years ago when DPDP drafts were coming out and there was discussion about it. And when this came up in some board meeting or in some other forum, you should have been the one saying, yeah, I think, we don't know the whole picture. Don't come across as someone the know-it-all. Again, humility is important. Say that I have a basic understanding of what they're trying to do over here. It's a bit like GDPR. Read up on GDPR. And GDPR does this, this, this. What the final rulemaking is might be a diluted version of GDPR in the Indian context. And what we want to do is try and have some of the requirements kind of build into our project starting today so that we are not caught on the wrong foot. So if we start preparing today and we kind of put it into our projects, when this happens 2 years later, we would have been in a better position and be able to avail of and comply instead of it being a knee-jerk reaction, okay? So if you have the data now and be able to speak to it, you are in a better position to kind of be the person that they choose in that meeting, because you're the one who's able to raise your hand, speak up, and probably you'll be chosen to roll out the plan. Now, everything that you see in companies some companies love you, but they also want to see what they can do for you. What you can do for them, okay? If you are the person, they don't have to go hire from outside. If you are the person that they can trust to do some of the work over here, you're in a much better position. I don't know whether that answers your question.
Yes, absolutely. I mean, it's fantastic to know. I think one of the things you mentioned clearly was to understand what the organization needs.
Yeah.
Right. Being able to anticipate that and be a part of that. Can you just explain that a little more, in terms of, because from a technology perspective, right? I'm just saying a lot of tech leaders here, what do they need to do specifically to understand what the organization needs?
I can't stress on this enough, Mudit. And I've been a technologist. I've also had a lot of technologists work for me. The largest team I've run is 220 people. And a lot of people just don't understand what the business is, okay? And I'll go through some specific examples later. But I think the most important thing you can do in any job is to understand the purpose of the business lines. And what you can do is, normally when you join, you have a bit of a honeymoon period. Use that time. You should be working 12, 16-hour days at that time. I'm just joking. Visit the business, talk to team members, understand what they do and how, and also some of their challenges. Also use this opportunity to say, okay, I am one of the directors of the information blah, blah team, IT team, or you could be a finance person, finance team. We've been servicing you, we get your needs. What could we do better? Okay. That is the time when you have the honeymoon period to get unfiltered. If you turn around and provide that to a decision maker down the road, oh my God, they'll love you. Okay. The other thing is to do, so again, kind of the gist of it is to understand the challenges that they face, in what you do for the organization. Read the annual report if it's a public company. Depending on the role, talk to the business lead. I mean, see if you can go all the way to the top. Let me give you an example in the bank, okay, that I worked with. In my very first week, I talked to the CFO, the CEO, the chief revenue officer, saw where the money is coming from and where the money today and where the money will come from in the future. Talk about new lines of businesses, read up, research, look at some of the existing use cases, and then try and get involved in those conversations. Okay, once you get involved in the conversations, you're in the room or inside in the circle, not out of the circle. Okay, and then see if you can help, irrespective of your role. I mean, you could be an IT person, you could be a finance person, you could be a marketing person, but if they're doing a new initiative, there is a possibility that your team might be part of the delivery. If you've already had the conversation, and when they start talking about, who should they pull from finance, your name will come up. So see if you can help, irrespective of your role, on the project, and try and see if you are looked upon as a catalyst, because then you will be part of the A team delivering on the strategic project.
Amazing. I think that's an amazing takeaway for anybody, like you said, right? It doesn't matter if you're in technology or finance or product or marketing. If you understand the business and you know what the business really wants, and you're part of the conversation, like you said, if you're discussing that, then you will definitely get picked up. And I think when you start getting picked up for strategic projects that make a difference to the company, that's when you get the attention. So I think that's a fantastic point.
Yeah, and you'll see more doors opening up.
Absolutely, absolutely. Right, because everybody's working hard. Everybody is, burning the midnight oil, but not everybody gets picked up because they're really not part of the conversation.
Yeah, as the saying goes, it's not work hard, it's work smart.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. So this is one part, right? What other mindset shifts do you think, you need to make a difference, a change as a mid-career leader to go up the ladder?
So this is a bit controversial, okay? A lot of people think that an MBA will do it, okay? And I can see smiles already. People say, oh, I'll go to an MBA and the world will change for me. Not true. This was 20, 25 years ago, maybe, when Mudit and I were young. And not now. It's changed. The world has changed. And MBA is good. It helps kind of push, but it doesn't open up the doors. Okay. That is why if you see a lot of people are no longer doing full-time MBAs. Full-time, and I'm talking about the US context, because that's where I live and I work, and that's what I know. The full-time MBA enrollments have plummeted. A lot of big universities have stopped. The executive or part-time MBA is still very popular because, the 2 years or even 18 months there, because a lot of people have tried to make it into an 18-month MBA. There's a opportunity cost of, you leaving a job and then again rehiring, getting into a new job. That is, those numbers don't work out. So my advice to professionals who feel stuck mid-career is attitude. Okay, change your attitude. Do not be perceived as a follower. Be perceived as a leader. Okay, and if you can change your attitude and change how people perceive you, that is what's going to help you. Keep yourself updated on certain areas. Don't be a master on everything. You can never be, okay? So you can't be a jack of all trades. Focus on certain things that you see are, if you know where you're working, what they're doing, and what are some of the upcoming projects in that area, or some of the upcoming issues in that area, okay? Like, as you know, in AI, we were talking about chat GPT and bots and stuff like that. a year or 2 years ago. Now it's, the last whole of last year, we're talking about agentic AI. And agentic AI is going to revolutionize a lot of things. See how that technology can work in your environment. Work with the business lines. Try and see if you can get a POC going. And that could be anything. It could be both. Again, another thing was RPA, okay, robotic process automation. A lot of organizations have done it, but I think there's a huge potential of agentic AI, RPA, and all of these things being merged together and providing a synergistic effect, which I think is going to be very, very, very useful and very impactful for organizations. Read up on it. Get yourself updated on technologies. Now, you don't have to be the expert. You don't have to be the PhD in the room, but know from the business side what you know and what you can provide benefit to. Like I mentioned, I've been a CISO for many, many years, right? But there are certain things I've just stayed away from, because if I really need to spend time on it, like blockchain or quantum computing, I have to spend a lot of time. And I don't think the ROI is there because it's such a niche play, okay? So focus on things that you think you have an ROI and you can focus on. And there are certain areas like, which are pretty standard, like cloud computing, stack consolidation, tools force reduction. I think there's we got a live Mac. You might want to get back to it. So focus on standard things that people do. See how you can do it faster, better, quicker. Cheaper is always good because people are trying to reduce cost. And so if you can do consolidation, you can do portfolio reduction, you can do any way to reduce the cost, I think you're going to get some benefit. And then you can compete with the best of the best. So pick on what you want to really focus on and pick on what you think you would be able to be perceived as an SME and spend time on it.
So great. I think you started with attitude and, the ability to sort of actually be involved, read on as much, be relevant. What other advice would you have for, let's say, mid-career professionals whose career, their careers are sort of getting plateaued?
Well, it's a bit of a challenge, right? I mean, at the end of the day, it's what you want to do and what you want to, where do you see yourself in a couple of years? But there are certain things you can always focus on and, try and kind of add to your arsenal. So try and develop what is, I talked about understanding the business, understanding what the business needs. So just have the ability to think beyond the current technical challenges, trying to align with what the business needs. So develop that strategic vision. Leadership skills, manage your team, mentorships, be a mentor to others and also get mentors. So be a mentee, so get some mentees, and then get involved in things where you're able to inspire and align diverse teams. And they don't have to be work related. They could be things like, in the US, we have things like employee resource groups. So employee resource groups are things like Latinos for technology, or Asians for technology, or Blacks for technology, or LGBT for technology. So in these various resource groups, make yourself into a leader in that space. Try and do charity work. Then they start perceiving you as a leader, okay? And your name gets out. So the other thing is communication skills. I can't tell you how important communication skills are to kind of articulate complex ideas clearly, because most of the time, if you're presenting to senior management and you throw buzzwords at them, you're gonna get the deer in the headlight look. Like, what can you make this simple for us? Make it in business terms. So that is very important. So try and articulate some of these complex ideas, and also practice. So when you are going to go present to a specific audience, I would say practice, get some, if you have a mentor, practice on your mentor. If you have, if you're doing a program like this, try and get onto Mudit's calendar, bounce it off him, because he's going to be an impartial reviewer, and he'll provide you feedback. And the feedback might not be technical, but he can give you we just talked about posture, right? He can talk to you about posture. He can talk to you about eye contact. He can talk to you about your hands. Because when you're presenting, it's 360 degrees. There are a lot of things involved, right? Like, one of the things, if I'm sitting like this and I'm laid back, it depends, it defines engagement. So that simple thing of how you engage and how you talk to people, okay, is very important. And those things come up, and it shows passion, it shows interest, and then of course, I'm going into a little bit into your area, Mudit. It's the voice, the tones, the ups and downs, okay? Those are all very important. And that, emphasizing certain things, really, really focusing on things that they want to, we'll talk about this in a bit, I guess, when we talk about what are some of the most important takeaways you're going to have in meetings and things like that. Those are important, because if you have 50 things, no one's going to remember those 50 things.
Absolutely. Fantastic. I think, Shupro, key takeaways there: build your communication skills, build your leadership skills, right? Keep upskilled, learn, demonstrate it in more ways than one. And I think you've really got to evaluate, to go back to the basics of, what do you want in your career, right? Wherever you are, because there's always room and, some way to get up there. But to be noticed is critical, because I think a lot of, like we say, right, a lot of tech leaders very often, shy away from some of these skills, right? So I think it's critical that you brought that up. And how did your journey in technology really evolve, right, into that strategic leadership role? Maybe you'd like to share a little bit about that.
So in my case, as I mentioned, I did my first job in City, and as I mentioned, I was hired because I could install novel networks. And when I joined City, as I told you, I got this opportunity to get into internet. But I learned a lot at that time. There was all these protocols that I had to learn. I spent my time on those protocols, and I was a bit lucky. Okay, I took this role. The web was coming in. Everyone wanted a website. So Citibank, as you know, is a global bank. From Japan to Santa Monica, because that's where TTI was, almost everyone knew my name, because I was the guy that they contacted to get a Citibank email address. I was the guy who would help them set up their web servers. So luck is important, and being at the right place at the right time, because I ran their initial web servers internally and externally. The first email that was sent into City and out of City was sent by me. And one of the other things that happened, and this is where, when you're doing your job, be prepared. Okay, luck is there, but you're not going to have luck all the time. And if there are 10 people, maybe one person would get lucky and not all four. So one of the things we did is, when we built a service, I was always asked that someday our CISO is going to come in, ask you, are you secure? We've connected to the internet, and security is a concern. City's CISO at that time, Steve Katz, is actually perceived to be the first CISO in the world. He was my CISO. Now, I was a couple of rungs under him, but he was asked in a board meeting, and what he had done, this was unknown to me, is that he had hired a white hat hacking pen testing team. And one day I was coming into work, and I put in my alerting and At that time, we didn't have phones. We had this clamshell shell pagers, which used to open like this. And I got a page and I'm like, what's going on here? I was supposed to go somewhere else. I said, no, let's go into work. I went into work, started looking at the logs, and saw this guy. I saw this hacker coming in and I blocked him. Okay. I locked him out. I blocked him. And then I, even sent him an email because I did a reverse lookup. I'm not going to go into tech speak too much, but basically I was able to find his email address, send him an email that you're trying to do this, please don't do this. I'll report you to law enforcement, blah, blah, blah. I knew that there was something going on because when I did the search, I saw that that email address was put under another firm, but the address I knew that was from a company called SAIC. I knew where SAIC was. So the firm was different, but the building address was SAIC's. So they had a front and they had registered these names and they were doing the hacking from there. So I blocked them. Of course, I got a lot of visibility with my CISO and senior management because he was very happy. Good bonus that year too. But I really took my senior network engineering role very, very quickly. And in 96, I got a call from the city InfoSec team. They were getting a little worried that they didn't have enough people on their team that knew internet networking. And they wanted me to join in as an internet security architect. So I interviewed, got the role, was made a full VP. And that's when I moved into InfoSec in 96, almost 29 years ago. I was in the Citibank InfoSec team from 96 to 99. It was a very rewarding experience, learned a tremendous amount. Besides the internet infrastructure, one of the things that I started doing is I was given a small team of internet security folks. And what we started looking at was, yes, infrastructure is there. We do a lot of work, but we're building these apps. Are we actually protecting the apps? Remember, this is 97, 98. People weren't even thinking about stuff like that. Some very initial startups were coming. There were teams like, things like Satan and Nmap had just got released. Crack, ISS was working on their ISS scanner. And we started using these products. I mean, when City calls, you answer, right? All these vendors were very happy that we'd call. We tested them out. And I got a very good visibility. And that was my first job as a manager. I created the job for myself. Okay, I had 4 people in my team. We were the first InfoSec application security team in City in 98. So when I left in 99 to go into my startup, it was it was an opportunity to go build a company. That's what I did, right? I was the CEO of the company. And my CEO and I, basically, we built this company. We hired up to 45 people. And I had some of the, I would say, experience of being a leader and a manager.
Okay. So what I took away from there was, in your career, always try and create a role or always be at the forefront of getting visibility, doing things, being part of what the action is, right? So that's one way that you get noticed by a lot of senior people in your business, right? Great. Now tell me, you talked about, having that understanding the business. How would you, what do tech leaders need to do to develop business acumen as a technologist?
So again, going back to my own experience, I was always interested in the business. Like when I joined, because I always wanted to learn and I was always curious. I guess a bit of a nosy Parker, I guess. At Citi, I wanted to know how the bank gave out loans. How loans came in, how mortgages came in, how credit card ratings were done. And this was very useful because I was working with all these teams and helping develop their external websites, right? I worked with Citibank student loans and I worked on how they actually gave out student loans and stuff like that. So I was learning their business. At NASD NASDAQ, it was a little different because there we were learning how exchanges worked. So I learned about what was a bid price, what's an ask price, what's a best execution, what's order routing, matching orders, what is a trade execution, then the clearing, T+3. which, as you know, India is trying to go to T+0, and the regulatory oversight because we ran several systems. Without doing a security review of these systems, without understanding the business would have been very difficult. So investing the time, knowing what the business does was, I think, important. When I was at RBS, I learned about high velocity trading, learned about how dark pools worked, learned about how agency trading worked, and so on and so forth. I mean, most recently, I was at Eagle, which is, as I mentioned, a commercial bank, and there are different risk categories: liquidity risk, credit risk, market risk, operational risk, and cyber risk. Now, what you want to do is try and make sure that cyber risk does not fall from the top 5. You are there at the risk committee, because what happens is when you're presenting, they go with the highest risk, gets the most time. And if you're like number 9, you're not getting any time because they can't go beyond the top 5. Okay, typically banks have top 10 risk. Okay, so you have to be in the top 5 to get a seat at the table and to present and to get money. So today, when I work with clients, what I really, really do is try and understand the business. And I cannot emphasize this enough.
Absolutely. So understanding the business, I think that's the biggest takeaway, for everybody, right? Now, tell me, now that, you've been a CISO and, you've been at the C-suite level, CIO, et cetera, right? When you are looking to build your team or looking, at mid-career leaders and you want to pull, or you think, somebody has great potential, right? What do you look for, or what did you look for?
I think one of the most important things that I look for is that do I hire people who I have to spoon feed at every level, or do I hire problem solvers? Okay, and that's part of the management strategy too. I mean, I actually empower people very, very early, and I give them a safe place to fail. Okay, and I know I'm giving them the thing, and I have oversight, because I'm not going to give you a project where you go fail so badly that you put the whole organization at risk. But I think it is important to fail, because when you fail, you learn from your mistakes. And if you haven't failed, you're not going to learn. So, there's when we see, and it's in a lot of your books, Mudit, they say Apollo 13, failure is not an option. I see failure as an option. This ain't the Apollo 13, and we have to fail because that's how we're going to learn. So don't be afraid of failing. So when I hire people, I want them to have that mindset that I'm going to do this, and not, ask every 5 minutes, am I doing this right? Am I doing this right? That means high maintenance. Okay. And if I have 10 of you and all 10 of you are like that, I'm going to die. Okay. And nothing's going to get done. So having the ability to independently think for yourself. If you're unsure, go sit down with your manager and have a high-level plan, okay, a skeleton plan of what you want to do. You don't have to talk to him about the details because you don't want him to spoon feed you. Like, I'm thinking of doing this, 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 this. Does this sound right? Use them as a sounding board. Get mentors, get other peers, get other senior managers, and then communicate, right? So today, when I look at people, I look at how much of maintenance they are. Do they have the technical mindset, or do they have a business mindset? How easy are they to work with? Is it an I, or are they a team player? Okay, team players are very important. So are you a team player? Are you able to work with others? Are you able to influence and collaborate with others? Do you have basic strategic thinking in your DNA? And are you taking a customer-centric approach, right? So are you doing things that add value to your customers? And customers could be internal customers. They could be external customers too, but half the time we are delivering to internal customers. Are you adding value to them? And do they see you as a value add or just a nuisance? And the most important thing is risk management. Okay. So balancing innovation with risk is, and you have to take a certain amount of risk, because if you try and avoid risk, you're not going to get those opportunities. So plan, plan, plan. Take calculated risks. If you are feeling unsure, go talk to your management. Go talk to your manager or peers. But take those risks and find yourself as the one in the room that people go to, and not the one that you're not the order taker. You're the one, perceived as a leader.
Great, great. So I heard, just trying to recollect from your long list, right? Problem solver, somebody who is not very high maintenance in terms of, either emotionally or informationally, right? In terms of somebody who's constantly comes and asks you things. 2, number 3, like you said, leadership. You talked about communication skills. You talked about, obviously innovation, balancing that innovation and risk, right? And somebody who can influence. So I just want to check, how would you think, leaders, mid-career leaders need to build credibility and influence?
Very important. Credibility is because if you are addressing an audience and you have no idea what you're talking about, people are not going to look at you seriously. Okay. They will just look at you as someone who's kind of grabbing the limelight without knowing what he's talking about. I think credibility is important. Sometimes people will say, oh, and I've done that too. I'm guilty. At one time, I was leading a cloud team, an AWS cloud team. There's a 100% fintech built by Fannie and Freddie Mac, which is the largest mortgage companies, delivering a brand new product on the internet, on the cloud. We didn't have a single server in the data center. Everything was in the cloud. I was responsible. I was not the CISO, that was the dairy CISO. I was responsible for security, architecture, engineering, and also worked a lot with the architecture review board because we were building a lot. It was build. You had to really understand AWS. And when I walked in, I thought I knew AWS, a bunch of, run a couple of servers. I knew nothing. Okay. So I hit the books, learned, got myself, really pushed myself to get the AWS solution architect certification. When you walk into the room with that certification, people look at you a little differently. So I'm not a big guy about certifications, but sometimes you need to, because it's not you, it's the people around you. And you kind of buy your credibility that way.
Okay. Great. So good topic to discuss, certifications versus education full-time, and what really helps, what differentiates, because if there are many people who have the same certification, what differentiates them?
Certifications will get you there, but it won't keep you there. Okay. And the reason I say that is, I was addressing a university on earlier this week, and these are undergrads, mostly undergrads, computer science, and they were asking, in cyber, should we really spend time doing a 4-year certification degree, or should we just, 4-year regular degree with, in CS with cyber, or should I just go get a certification? I'm like, you could do that, but, it's going to be you're going to keep on taking certifications all the time. And people will always, if you really get a good manager, he's going to question your basics. Because through education, and most of us have done bachelor's degrees, I'm assuming, in those 4 years, or if you've done a master's +2, you have put in a lot of effort and gone into the details. You've done casework, you've done projects. That gives you a certain amount of insight and a certain amount of the gravity of education is much, I would say, deeper, and that's going to help you when the going gets tough. So I have, in my career, I've worked in situations where I've had to respond to incidents. I've actually had to respond to some very serious incidents. Sometimes I didn't understand the protocol, but I understood the basics of the protocol, not specific protocols. Some protocols like, how TCP works, how UDP works, and things like that, basic understanding. And if you have your foundations right, it's very easy for you to understand. If you just did a certification and studied for the certification, that 24 hours before and then 24 hours later, it's a flush onto the next certification. That's the way I think about it in certification. So degrees give you a certain amount of depth, which I don't think certifications can. But unfortunately, we live in a world of certifications. So it's a blend.
It's a blend. So sure. And with that certification, right, this is building up through, because in India, we love certifications too, right? Everybody's getting certified on everything. Two people with the same certification, right? Or 3 people or 5 people in your team with the same certification. What do you think is going to get, what else will you look for?
No, as I mentioned, certification will get you there, may not keep you there, right? So why does India like certifications? Because for every job, it's not 10, 15 people applying. There are 100 people applying. They put certifications as a control gate. Okay, they are reducing, and they're trying to get the person who understands the most. So the job may not require it, but we put a lot of certifications so you don't have to look at 1,000 candidates and find the hidden gem. You kind of reduce the field or the pool, and you're looking at less number of people who are qualified and they have the appropriate skill sets. Otherwise, they wouldn't have gotten the certifications. So yeah, you get the job, but then at the job, it's a 360 degrees. If you're difficult to work with, if you're a real pain to work with, if you are always late on your delivery, if your quality of work suffers, I mean, these are things, and I can go on and on. That's not going to keep you in the job. And that's where you have to be above and beyond, right? So upskilling yourself is important, but also focusing on a lot of the other things that go with the job.
Absolutely. Okay, great. So upskill, guys, that's the message here, but make sure you are able to contribute. And I think, see the applications of the certifications, and try and build relevant skills there, I would presume, right? So great, let's just move on. Not everybody understands cybersecurity. It's one of the things. So how do you, 2 questions here. One is, how do you remain relevant, right? If you're in a IT company, maybe they'll understand, but like you said, you've been in a bank, you've been in an exchange. They know it's important, but it's not on the top of the agenda unless something goes wrong, right? In terms of that. So how do you, as a leader, as a tech leader in cybersecurity, are able to get the attention and keep yourself relevant?
No, I think that's important. And I've gone into forums, which is, I was at a forum in December, and we were chatting about different things. And one of the questions I asked was, who over here cares about cybersecurity? A couple of hands. I said, who cares about information security? A couple of hands. Because information security is a little broader than just cyber. Who here gives their data to a third party? Almost the room. Who here worries that the third party is going to handle their data appropriately? Everyone in the room. Okay, raise their hands. So it's how you position it and how you kind of talk about what is the end goal or what is the end point that you're looking at, that the data that you're providing, is it being handled correctly? Is it being managed correctly by the outsourcer, right? So I think that is how you should position yourself and try and make the audience realize if they don't do what you're asking them to do, they might be the loser. You're not the winner, but they are the loser.
Mm-hmm. Okay. So that's a And just for some of the cybersecurity buffs, right? What are the most critical things? Because I know a couple of people, and a lot of people today in my team also, who are working with me, and they really want to know what will get them ahead in the cybersecurity ladder. What should they be doing?
So it's a little different conversation and it's a longer conversation, but I'll give you the gist.
Yeah.
And I've been a mentor to several people, formally or informally, who have been, and in cyber, we want to be the CISO, right? So everyone wants to be the CISO. I actually tell people, why do you want to be the CISO? But that's a different matter altogether, because you're just opening up yourself to so many different things. It looks very glamorous from the outside, but when you're inside, it's not that easy. But coming to the point, a lot of us that work in cyber work in one niche of cyber. Okay, cyber's got a lot of different domains. Someone is working in engineering, regular engineering, infrastructure engineering, cloud engineering, or you might be working on application security, or you might be working on IAM. A lot of people work on IAM. You might be working on GRC. You might be working on disaster and recovery. I think I've covered most of the areas of traditional cybersecurity. You might be working in metrics and reporting and things like that, board reporting. Getting the 360 point of view, doing almost like rotations is very important. And the reason is, and I've done that in my previous teams, right? The people I found to be, I've always hired people who can replace me. Okay. And that's important. And I'll come to another point shortly. It's very important to get that 360 view of different parts of it, because as the CISO, all of those, you're going to be touched by all of those. You cannot go just from one area. And that's why there are some courses, especially the one that I want to call out is Carnegie Mellon University has a very, very good CISO course. Okay. And that's what they try and do. Not everyone is going to have the ability to work in a lot of different areas. So what they do is it's like an MBA. Okay. In an MBA, you're given a little bit of management, general management, a little bit of accounting, a little bit of finance, a little bit of org structure, a little bit of, operations research. So that's what they've done. They've taken all these little bodies of knowledge and given you a certificate. It's called the Certified CISO. And they try and get you into all these different areas so that you are exposed and you're in a better position to kind of be a CISO in the future. Again, take those rotations, keep moving, because the minute you move, you'll learn. Yes, you can learn from a book, but actually being there doing it is important. Second, try and be the deputy CISO. Okay, walk in the CISO shoes for while he's sitting on the beach relaxing. You can be the person getting all the flack, and that'll teach you. And if your CISO leaves, goes to someplace else, and you've been the deputy CISO, your number might be up. You might be asked to fill in those shoes.
Okay, great. So at this stage, we'll just take, I'm going to just check. Shubhra, we're missing you. You're on the beach and you're enjoying the water. So you're off the screen a bit. So I thought we'll just call you back. And interesting question. You told me you worked with, coaches too, right?
Yeah.
Why a senior, leader like you, want to go to a coach, right? You're a CISO, you've been like CIO and whatever, but share with the team a little bit.
That's the reason even the top players in the world need coach. You need a reflection. You need a mirror. You need someone to provide you with that unbiased point of view. Yes, your spouse can do it, but they'll be biased. Your friends can do it, but they'll be biased. Also, having the organizational context, trying to help you with certain skills. So I've had leadership coaches, and especially in one job, I'd actually gotten, because it was a very politically minded job. Every day was a landmine that I was walking into. And my biggest problem used to be some of the business folks who, I was a CIO in that job, okay? And the way it was set up in this organization, all the IT was with the business. And as a CIO, you own the strategy. You were kind of not effective. So getting people to actually follow what you're doing, they wouldn't. So I kind of found, that I was a CIO in title, but I couldn't make a difference. So it's very tough. It was very, very. So how to tackle those situations? How to kind of we actually mapped a lot of the individuals. Do you guys do Myers-Briggs and stuff?
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So I've used, I don't use it anymore. But when I was in the organizations, we used to look at Myers-Briggs. We used to see what triggers, what makes them do stuff. So there's been a time when I've really analyzed people, okay? And analyzing people, what makes them move, what makes them do stuff, I think is important.
Fantastic. And how did, working with a coach really help you?
Providing some of that insight, right? So we did the MBTI model of that person based on whatever we knew, and what would trigger them, how to plan that conversation, how should we open the conversation, how should we have the main conversation, and how should we close it.
Super, super. Great. So, I'm so happy, that you've shared, like, as a senior leader, you worked with coaches, and you said, several times, right, in terms of getting impartial feedback, somebody who's looking at you, non-judgmentally, but also telling you exactly as it is, right? So, great. I think that's what, a lot of people here would need to, I think benefit from too. So, Shupra, we can only see half of you. Can you come a little bit? Sorry, you've been going out. So tell me, if you were to look at it, right, what are the top, 3 tech trends that you see globally coming ahead?
I think we all know what the number one tech trend is.
Yeah.
It's AI. And
The others.
it's just the tip of the iceberg. We haven't seen the real benefits as yet. It's going to change. I mean, I was talking to one of my previous business leaders. He used to be the head of application development at FINRA, and he'd sent an article, and we were just chatting about it. And he had posted on LinkedIn, and I hadn't spoken to him for about 2 years, so I sent him a text, hey, blah blah blah, and I told him the way I feel is this is how the world might have felt when Edison came up with his light bulb, or when Graham Bell came up with his phone, or Ford came up with his car. Revolutionary, changed the world. And that's the way I feel about AI, because some of the things it can do and some of the things that it can accomplish at the speed of electrons is amazing. And, we've seen last week was the NVIDIA GTC for people who follow NVIDIA. I mean, we just got started, man. I mean, this year, next year, and the next couple of years, it's just going to be absolutely crazy. And what is going to be achieved, and especially in the cyber world. I actually was talking about my talk earlier this week was the cyber jobs of the future. Okay, what kind of jobs are we going to have in the next 5-10 years so that universities can get ready to provide the clientele for it? And as India is the service provider capital of the world, a lot of the universities have to provide that kind of resources or that kind of skill sets for their participants to avail of these opportunities. And that's where I see huge, okay, AI is going to be very, very important. Cyber is important. Cyber is very important because there are a lot of organizations that actually have to do some changes. And that is because of quantum computing. A lot of the security that we had today or yesterday is going to be redundant because quantum computers are going to be coming up with capabilities of cracking the security, which could be done in 30, 40 years in a couple of minutes because of the whole framework through which qubits work. And then I think the other thing that is going to be is supply chain risk. I mean, supply chain risk is not only in cyber, it's in everything. When we buy a product, and we've seen it in medicines, we've seen it in food that we buy, what is going in? And that's why there's a huge push for organic today, because there's so much of chemical traces we've seen. And that's a supply chain risk because you didn't know that the food that you were eating had a very high amount of chemical traces, right? And that could be a reason why people are getting cancer. So it's not only just technology, it's outside technology. Supply chain risk is going to have a global impact. I mean, those are the ones that I can think about right now. If you had given me a little bit of time, I would have read up what Davos has said this year on the risk, which I haven't.
Not necessarily on risk, but just you mentioned that you also spend time with RBS. You would come into India, right? So India, like you said, is becoming the biggest service provider. There are a lot of GCCs coming in here, right? Just tell us, what do Indian leaders who are based here, right, when they're talking to the headquarters in the US or with their senior counterparts, right? How should they come across, and what do, let's say, people in the US look for from for senior leadership in India, right? When they come in, what do you think are the skills, or what should they build, and what are the things that we need to be really careful about?
So I think India is perceived as a technical, India and Indians are perceived to be technical leaders, okay? We have got enough representation in Silicon Valley and also in a lot of the big companies. We are technical leaders. It's in India, it's the mindset, okay? And the IT part of it has solved that problem because we use a lot of global delivery models and we've kind of solved the model. But it's in the other areas, the mindset has to be worked on. The other thing that we have to always work on is our communication. We tend to be, I mean, yesterday I was talking to somebody about his delivery capabilities. I mean, he just went on and on and on. He lost me. Okay. I know he's great. He's done a lot of work, but if you're going to lose me in so much of data that you're giving me, it's a useless conversation. So be succinct, be to the point, and you can always expand.
Yeah. So great. I think you talk about mindset and communication skills.
Mudit,
right?
do you use the STAR model?
Yes.
Okay.
You do it, as the situation, task, action, right? That kind of.
Yeah, I think the STAR model is important.
Okay, great. So that's one of the, like you said, one of the many models that we work on. And actually, one of the modules we do here is the 6 mistakes mid-career leaders make. And one of them is exactly what you're talking about, is the communication piece, right? What do you need to say at from a 5 feet perspective, from a 50 feet perspective, from a 5,000 feet, and from a 50,000, and who do you talk to, right? At that level, right? So let's say if you had a mid-career leader who had some problem, right? What would you as a CISO want to learn, hear? How could they get the 1 minute attention from you?
I mean, the reality is, the first thing I'm going to ask him is, okay, you have this problem. What have you done to help yourself, right? And what have you done to actually talk to your peers? Before that person comes to you for help, I want to know what they've done themselves, okay? I'm happy to help, but I don't want that person to be dependent on me. We need independent thinkers. So I think those are questions I will ask. And sometimes it's a little irritating for some of the people, oh, you never help us. No, I do help you. But I want to know, can you help yourself first?
Yeah, I think that's a very relevant point that you bring in. And I think maybe sometimes leaders, think that just by going to somebody senior, right, they're trying to get their attention. But you can, the closer you get to the top, the faster you can burn yourself too, right? Because you're too close to the sun and you haven't learned how to, navigate that heat. So I think it's a good learning here for students. And what I'm going to invite now is
actually, Mudit, one other just a rejoinder to that is when you're going to ask for assistance, show that you have actually thought it out and you have 2 or 3 options. Do a SWOT on the 2 or 3 options and go and ask the leader, whoever you're going to, this is the situation, this is what we've got to do. Based on our thinking and based on our analysis across the cross-functional team, I have come up with option 1, option 2, option 3. These are the pros, these are the cons, this is the time, this is the cost. Okay? Now, what you want to do is use that person as the sounding board or ask them, this is what we've done. What more should we do? Who else should we get input from?
Yeah, I think that's a very, very interesting, piece of advice, because a lot of people just walk into, rooms and then, they're unable to articulate, they're unable to get through, they don't get the attention, and then they wonder why. So I think this is a great tip to, for people to actually, get relevance, right? And I think coming from you, right, would be a great learning for a lot of the leaders. Yeah. So I'm just asking now, I know some of you have in the room pinging me individually, but if you have any questions now, this is the time we'll take questions, from the audience as we get down. But you mentioned an important thing, right? You built a framework, time, options, etc., right? What frameworks do you use, when you make a technology investment?
I'm sorry, what frameworks do I use for what?
Right, when you're, let's say, for example, you're presenting to a CEO, right, in terms of a new tech initiative, right? What do you also share with, various, in ways to get the attention of management? What would you do typically? Yeah.
So I try and keep it very simple. Okay, no buzzwords. And whenever I've kind of presented, it's the what, the when, the why, and how. Okay, what are we doing? Why are we doing it? When are we going to do it? And how are we going to do it? And what's it going to cost?
Okay, great.
Because that's the question that the CEO is going to have in his mind. Great, we're going to do blah, 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 but why are we doing this?
Yeah.
How are we going to do this? When are we going to do this? So very basic questions that to anyone. I mean, those are normal reactions that you're going to have. And if you go in with those answers, you got to win them.
Great. Take a few questions now from the audience, and some of them written to me directly. So it says, from your experience, how to move from tech roles, which are very, niche fields, and Sachin is into, semiconductors, right? And engineering and product design and all that, to a CXO role, right? Beyond understanding the business, like besides that, what would it be?
Yeah, so when you're in semiconductors and what you're doing, you have a deep specialization. So there are 2 ways to go. You can either be a specialist and you could be the world's best semiconductor manufacturer, or architect, or visionary, building the next NVIDIA GPU. Come on, Sachin, you can do it. Or you can do something else, right? So you can diversify. So for specialization, and that is not a bad career path. You can be down that path, and that's the deep and not broad. You have deep expertise, you're specializing in specific areas. There's a high demand for people like yourself, but high demand, but small demand, right? Niche, very, very niche. And of course, there's a risk that over specialization, because that technology might become redundant, right? I always have the story about 100 base T and 100 VG, which I will save for another day. Diversification gives you versatility. It allows you to adapt to various roles and challenges. Today in semiconductors, tomorrow you could be doing something else, right? But still, that strategic thinking and the mindset goes from industry to industry. The ability to lead people goes from industry to industry. I guess the key is to find the balance, okay? You could be a CTO, not an IT CTO, but a technology CTO, right? And you could have a very, very good career, or you could be more of a generalist. So it's that balance where you can specialize in one area while maintaining a broad understanding of related fields. It's just at the end of the day, your call, I guess.
Okay, great. So I'm sure that'll help. So here's I'm just taking a few more questions they're actually coming into me, right? So Sumant is asking, while taking risks, if you fail to regain if you make let's say you make an error, how do you get the confidence back of leadership?
Very good question, and thank you for asking. Risk is not about jumping off a cliff without having the appropriate framework to protect you, right? When you do jump off a cliff, some of you guys who have done bungee jumping, there are a lot of things, and use these analogies. Analogies are very important. I'm sure Mudit talks about storytelling, and have a lot of stories because it kind of makes things a lot simple. So when you're bungee jumping, you've got a helmet, you've got the harness and things like that. Similarly, when you're taking risks, you're going to have a lot of things around you. Identify those. Make sure that you know you just don't go take a risk without any kind of indicators. You have the metrics, you have the indicators. Know when things are becoming red. Know when they're becoming amber, okay? And take necessary action. So whatever you do, whenever you do it, make sure that you have the framework in place through which you're taking that risk. And then most important, feedback loop and communications. Continuous feedback. You are as good as your feedback you get. And also, you cannot perceive yourself to be 100% right. You know what? Sometimes we are 100% wrong. So check, and also get your team involved. For the last 15 years, all my annual plans have not been from me. I've been the note taker. I make my team give me the annual plans. Actually, they do the work. So what I do is I tell them, we are going to start talking about what we're going to do next year. Start making a list. Start 3 months ago, then 2 months, then a month, then 3 weeks, 2 weeks. Start getting them to think and making a list. Get all their input. Put them, if they're duplicates, get the duplicates out. Then sit down with the team, vote on what the entire team thinks is the most important thing to do, the second most important thing to do, third, fourth, fifth. Then based on that, vote, pick the top 3 or 4, because you can't do everything. And then look at leaders to kind of say, okay, you were one of the guys backing this, give me blah, blah, blah. A little more meat behind the thought process, the timeline and stuff like that. Now what you did is you got group consensus. It's not you only thinking. You were thinking. I mean, otherwise you wouldn't have put that on the list. There's some I will veto totally because I know it's not going to happen. But you got group consensus. You got commitment from the group. They felt that they were part of the journey. They also felt that what they said was valuable, and you listened. You're giving them a chance to kind of come up with the framework. And actually, you know what? You should let them present too. So what that does is you are inspiring people to the next level. They'll be a lot more motivated than if you were going and doing their presentation. And that is what I try and do all the time. Try and get members of your team in front of people, because you know what they say? The business is going to say, hey, man, I met this guy from Shopro's team. He was really good. Because you gave them the visibility. And you also gave them the capability and that confidence to go make that presentation.
Great, great. So at this point, we'll just take a few seconds off and just take a break so you can, and we'll come back, right? So we'll share, let's just take a break for a few seconds, right?
Okay. So when are we coming back?
Yeah, in 20 seconds. Just be there. The team will just play a video.
Oh, okay.
Bob Sternfield, who's the CEO of McKinsey, has said, it's not just India's decade, it's India's century, right? Because we are poised to become the third largest economy in the world. We are going to become a $10 trillion economy. You know what that means? It means tremendous opportunities, jobs, and senior people like you are required to fill in those jobs, right? We have a whole list of global GCCs coming into this country, and they're going to need talent like you, but you need to be ready. So the environment is there, but are you ready? Well, this is important. And to get you ready, I'm getting in the world's best to India. Okay, we have Sanjay Tandon, who's coming in from Silicon Valley. He was the senior director of Applied Materials Corporation earlier. We have Kalyani. She was the chief accounting officer for Sun Microsystems, Arista Networks, and last at Intap, a company which she was involved to getting it to the NASDAQ level, right? In India, we have Ram Kumar Narayan, who's speaking. He is currently the head of FIS for India and Philippines, and previously was the CEO of VMware in India. And of course, how can we forget Mr. Arvind Sitaraman, who is the president of Cisco, right? He'll give you a great experience on holistic leadership. And we have CHRO, like Pradipto from EMIDS. We have many other leaders. We have Kiram Iyer, who was earlier with Accenture. Now, these are people who have worked, studied, become successes all across the world. I don't want you to miss this opportunity. And that's why I'm planning a physical event in Bangalore. Mark your calendar. It's on May 3rd. But before that, we're going to have 5 days where we're actually going to be mentoring you and giving you quizzes and preparing you for what is to come on the 6th day, which is May 3rd, Bangalore. So what I want you to do is, without wasting any time, click on the link below and book your ticket right away, because I can tell you, as it fills up, the ticket prices are going to go up. So don't miss this opportunity. Click, buy your ticket, and I'm really looking forward to seeing you. Hi, I'm Muditsaxena. I'm a global CXO leadership coach. I work with leaders across the country, and I've impacted thousands of leaders across the world. In our community, people have become CEOs. People have become CXOs. Many people earn more than 1 CR. People have got 100% jump. People have got, within the company, they've got jumps. So whether it's a salary increase, a promotion, you name it, you're going to find it in my community. And that's why I want you to welcome you to come in here. And I want you to build your network so that you are able to get opportunities which are not readily advertised. So come here, build your network, learn from the best, and I hope to see you in Bangalore on May 3rd. Take care till we meet again. Okay, welcome back. And, it's just trying to get, raising, the ability for leaders to sort of buy and learn at the latest Global CXO Accelerator Summit. So I thought it'd be a great idea to do that, right? So let me just take a few more questions. Shupro, I know we've taken a lot of your time today. And the question box to me is just like been buzzing right through, and that's why I've deviated a bit from the script, so to speak. But at the end of the day, we're serving the community. So would we have another 10 minutes? Are you okay?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, okay, great. So we'll go until 1 p.m. And then because I know you're quite busy, right? So one of the questions that I see here is keeps coming back in a lot of ways, that a lot of the audience is very often doing very specialized jobs. It could be in tech, it could be, how do they get out from there and get prominence into leadership roles? You've been answering that in many ways, but it's, keeps coming back. So I thought maybe you can just address that one directly.
I'm going to give the classic management consultant answer. It depends. Right? Scenarios depend. And let me tell you, irrespective of whoever says what it is, there's no magic bullet. There is no magic bullet, because your scenario, your situation, your skill set, your company, your vertical that you're working in, and what you want to achieve is going to differ. And success is measured by different people in different ways, right? So to keep it simple, I would say for tech professionals aiming to be recognized as business leaders, have the business acumen, communicate strategically, try and work in cross-functional projects where you are perceived as a collaborator and an influencer, okay? Collaboration is very important. It's one of the number one skills people look for. If you're a pain to work with, no one wants to work with you. And I keep on telling my team, I use a lot of sports analogies, okay? Not all of us were born to be Tiger. Now Tiger Woods is bad because of a lot of the crappy things he's done, but at one time Tiger Woods was God, okay? If there was God, that's Tiger Woods. Or Michael Jordan. Not all of us are born to be Michael Jordan or Tiger Woods. As we are not, we have to work with others, okay? And I used to follow a basketball team where it's the Utah Jazz, and there were 3 players over there, okay? And they won because of the partnership between these 3 guys. So if you're a team player, and if you can find people in your organization that you can team with, and it's a win-win, go in with that. Because if there are 5 people and 3 people work together, and you'll be perceived as the triumvirate who can get you there. Sometimes it's good to hunt in packs, okay? But it's a catch-22. You sometimes get knifed too. So you got to watch out. And Mudit will talk more about it in his sessions on how that works, and I will not go there. So cross-functional teams, and then make sure any new projects or anything that you're bringing in are mapped to the division's goals, to the organization goals. Then what you will see, it's very easy to get funding, okay? And also get business sponsors, okay? Get mentors inside, outside the company. Use them. Just don't have it in by name only. Use them. Get ideas from them. Try and get people who walk the path before you. Try and get ownership of strategic initiatives. And we've talked ad nauseum about how to do that, and I'm not going to go over that again. And then, of course, networking. And we just talked about, Mudit just talked about how you can attend the latest forum and network with decision makers. But they're networking a lot of different things. Working in different, like in my case, I've networked through different associations. I've networked through different meetups. I've networked through, I used to be part of the FS-ISAC, which is the Financial Services ISAC. Met people there and a couple of other financial services industry forums. I go to Gartner. I'm part of the Gartner Inner Circle, meet a lot of people over there. I presented last year at Forrester. So you have to keep doing it. And it's an investment. It's an investment in your time. It's an investment in your career. And, there's always the flip. You could be happy with what you're doing, but if you are ambitious and if you want to go, luck will take you that far, and the probability is very low. Hard work does pay, but it's smart work. I mean, the fact that you're on this on this webcast, you're associated with Mudit, immediately tells you that you're on a different track.
Okay, great. So Shapro, I think some of the common themes have come back, time and again, right? If you're in there, right? Very clearly, communication, understanding the business, smart work, being able to work in a team, right? In terms of being able to deliver stuff, right? But there's one question here which is going to make a lot of people wonder, is it? And somebody's asking, right? When you are doing work, how do you stop other people from taking credit for it and get recognized for doing your own work? What can you do and how to deal with the politics? There's all mixed up there. So
just staring work, like stared them down.
Yeah. No, but serious, like they're saying that how do you prevent people from stealing your ideas, and especially maybe in a tech area?
No, it happens. Trust me, it's happened to me, and it happens almost every day. And sometimes it's okay. Okay, let it go. Okay, you can't stop it. It gives you a lot of grief, but that's okay. The other way to do it is, guys, I really got this idea and blah, 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 and put it out there. So you have the first mover advantage. Okay. In MBA schools, we talk about the first mover advantage and things like that. Have that first mover advantage. You were the first person to put the flag on top of, Mount Everest. And, you'll say, yeah, I'm the one who came up with it. And you don't have to have the full solution. Like one of the things that, I can tell you, and that, if you ask me some of the things that I could have done better, I've been a perfectionist, and sometimes I try and get too much done before I say it's ready for prime time, and I've learned. And as a previous manager who was a really, really good manager for me, used to say that perfection may be the enemy of progress or the enemy of good. Sometimes it's okay to be a little half-baked, but get it out there and get feedback. Okay, so it's changed a little, where and again, the other concept is your vision of perfection may be very different from someone else's vision of perfection, so that differs. Get the idea out there and have brainstorming sessions. Now, you know what people are going to perceive you as a leader. Okay, because you're getting consensus, you're getting ideas, you're getting group thought, you're getting validation. The minute you start doing this and you have these, in some of the conferences I go to, they're called BOFAs, Birds of a Feather group. So these, you're basically trying to get people who have an interest in it to kind of give you that that input, and that synergistic effect and that cumulative effect is going to be way more powerful. And what is your manager looking at, or your seniors looking at? Hey, man, this guy, Rahul Bajaj, I'm going to pick on him because I saw it's Rahul Bajaj, and we all know who Rahul Bajaj is. Is someone we should talk with, because he really knows what he's talking about, and he can really motivate an audience. He can actually motivate people. He can get feedback out of it. He's an influencer. He's one who is able to get the data, present in a succinct manner.
Yeah, superb. Yeah. There are a lot of very technical questions, but I'm going to keep them away. I'm just taking some of the more general ones now as we wind up.
Let's hear one technical question. I love it, man. Deep down, I'm a techie.
Okay, I know you're a techie. Okay, so here goes our good friend Mahesh Ranganatha. What could be the security template, strategy template we could have to always stay miles away from attackers and protecting our organization?
Oh my God. Mahesh, I have a next session that is coming up, and the ticket is very, very well priced at $4.99. You should join that. No, I'm joking. No, I would love to talk with you. Do connect with me. All of you guys, connect with me on LinkedIn. Happy to have a conversation, but I don't think that's an answer question for this forum. So, because this is more on leadership. So happy to respond to you, Mahesh. Please don't take it personally. I will respond to you and we will chat, but let's do it offline.
Yeah, yeah. But do your homework before you go to Shupro, huh? He's going to always ask you. Okay, so here's
My
another.
kids used to hate me, man.
Yeah, yeah. So here's another one, which is a little more general. I'm just taking the more general ones, right? When is a good time for you to look in your career and say, okay, I've tried my best, I've done what it is, it's time to move on because I'm not, really making an impact here.
This is a question that I'm the wrong person to give you an answer.
Okay.
And I'll tell you why. Okay. And I recognize that. And that is because I get very bored very quickly. Okay. I'm very restless and I'm not very patient. All very bad traits to have. And I recognize that. But irrespective of that, that also gives me part of my drive. And some of the changes I've had in my career when I was younger was driven by that. Okay. This attitude has allowed me to change jobs and get more opportunities, but sometimes I wish I was a bit more patient because not all of my jobs have been very good. I thought it was really as the proverb goes, one thinks that the grass is always greener on the other side. But there's a second proverb which says a known devil is better than an unknown one. Right? So patience, very important. I unfortunately don't have a whole lot of it.
Well, thanks, Shupro. You've been very patient with us. You've given us 2 hours, which is really a lot. And I know you've got a flight to catch. So I really can't.
Don't worry, I'll charge you, Mudit.
Yeah, that I know. No worries, no worries. Any charge from you is a welcome charge. And after all, it's all for the community here. So thank you so much, really. I mean, I know you have a flight to catch tonight and, it's a long international flight, but you gave us this time. And guys, just show us some love and appreciation for Shupro in the chat. Yeah, hold on. Let me open the chat up for, if you've enjoyed this session. Team, can you just open the chat up now so that, okay, I'm going to say, okay, we're just opening it up, right? So can we just hear, how did you find the session, today? Did you get some answers? Okay, fantastic session. Thank you. Fantastic. Thank you so much. Amazing, right? Very interesting, very informative, very insightful, amazing. Guys, you have some more words. Okay, good. From amazing, it's gone to excellent, right? Great insights. Thank you so much for your story, right? Great start to my weekend. Okay, right? And yes, what they're trying to say is you're very relevant, and thank you so much. Time very well. So, exceptional. Okay, great. Time well spent. Big thanks. Interesting, insightful. Okay, great. So now you're ready to be awarded the Nobel Prize from our community. Thank you so much. There are a lot of people pinging me, and when we do catch up, in fact, how many of you would like to have Shupro for the as the next speaker at our conference? Come on, let's hear. Yeah. Okay, great. Yes, please. Yes, yes, yes. Okay, Shupro, now we've got to plan the next conference, with your next trip to India, okay?
Yeah. So as I said, do reach out on LinkedIn. I can actually put my LinkedIn on the, let me just get that. Do connect with me, and anything I can do to help, or I know I owe at least one person a answer back, and I will do that. But any of you in cyber who's attending RSA?
Yes, yes. Smita will be there, I know for sure. Smita was presenting the last time at RSA. Anybody else?
So if you guys are attending RSA, we actually have an event in RSA. Do come and join. It's a full day event. Where is the chat? And that's my LinkedIn. And let me just quickly give you the RSA event that we have. It's with, I don't know if you guys are familiar with DSCI. So it's with DSCI, that's the Data Security Council of India. One of the things that I do is I actually am one of the leaders, and I run the startup incubation program for an organization called Suraksha Catalyst. It's with DSCI. So what we are doing at RSA is, let me just again put this, we will have a whole day event with the SCI. We're going to get some of the speakers from India too. Some of the ministers are attending. And we're going to have, already we've got about 300 CISOs from the US who have signed up. And we're going to have conversations, and we actually will have a Shark Tank too. So what I've been doing is I've been working with several startups in India or of Indian origin. Most of them are from India, and we've been interviewing them. We've been shortlisting them. We had almost 25 different startups. This is the first year. This is the first cohort applying, and we brought it down to 7. And we have a CISO advisory panel of about 10 people. We're going to interview them again, and we're going to have the top 5 present at RSA. We're going to have VCs over there. We're going to have other CISOs over there. And this our entire startup incubation program is actually how we built this on the Israeli model. I'm part of some of the Israeli startup incubation organizations like CyberStart. CyberStart's like Wiz is a CyberStart company, Daz is a CyberStart company, Syra is a CyberStart company. I've been part of CyberStart's Teammate, Merlin Ventures, and I've been learning from them how these incubation programs work, but use it in the Indian context. And we've set up the startup incubation program based on that, and we're going to have the Shark Tank over there, and we already have VCs, seed venture capitalists lined up to try and invest in these companies. So that's my plug.
Oh, okay. Super, super, super. No, I'm sure, and you're doing some stuff in India also, right?
So Suraksha Catalyst is basically the US-India program. And then I'm working with a university over here trying to build their cyber program too.
Oh, okay. Super, super.
And on my personal side, I've been, I'm an advisor, so I'm trying to set up some India-based delivery capabilities.
Superb. Excellent, yeah. And just some reflections, one last thing that people are asking me here is, they just don't want to let you go, is, looking back, if you had to do something different, right, in your career, what would you have done?
I've, as I mentioned, I've done some job changes. I've made some mistakes. Irrespective of how hard we try, we can't win everyone over, right? So there have been, irrespective, because you can try 150% and you can't. But I think you make your mistakes, you learn from your mistakes, but don't have it as a regret, because you can't turn the clock back. So you made the decision based on the best data available at that time. No regrets. Just keep moving forward, because there's nothing you can do with regretting it.
Yeah. I think that's some good advice. I think everyone, when they look back, if they're honest, all of us make mistakes, right? We all wish we had, had some more patience and stayed at some jobs, right? And then others, that we took, but that's all part of the learning, right? I mean, so as Steve Jobs would always say, you can always connect things backward, but you can't connect them forward.
Yeah, and some people, like I've actually talked about this in another talk, is there are people who run towards the fire and some people who run away from the fire, right? And when you're running towards the fire, you should be well geared, well trained, and be prepared. And that's what's called a fireman, right? A fireman is trained, a fireman is prepared, and he knows what he's running into. Otherwise, if you've ever seen the movie Backdraft, if you haven't, by the way, I love movies, and there's a lot to learn from movies and analogies. So especially when you are talking, if you use movies as an analogy, that connects with people very well. But anyway, the point is, if you're running towards the fire, be prepared, be set up for success, and be ready to face the consequences if not.
And for people running away from the fire,
Not fast.
Okay. So be prepared and fail fast and move forward, right? We're coming back to those same themes. And on that note, Shupro, as we wind up, I'll just ask my team to play a video. And I just want to thank everybody. And thank you, Shupro. And thanks so much for, just being here and just sharing your views. People love it. Yeah. Do you want to build a network of leaders who can get you your next job? Do you want to meet with managing directors, presidents, chief accounting officers, global directors, people who have made it in life, people who have achieved the heights in corporate success? Well, if that's the network you want to bring, then I'm going to encourage you to sign up for our Global CXO Access Masterclass, which is going to happen on May 3rd and May 4th. But you know what? It's actually a 7-day program. 5 days is online and 2 days live in Bangalore. So sign up below and I'll see you there at the summit. Hi, I'm Muditsaxena. I'm a Global CXO leadership coach. I help leaders like you get to 1 CR plus salaries on their way to becoming a global CXO. So I can't wait to meet you there, because I brought this masterclass so that you can succeed. So if you want to succeed, sign up below and I'll see you there. Okay, thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for spending your time here, and thank you. Hi, are you a leader who's looking forward to actually grow into a very senior role? Maybe you'd like to be a global CXO, right? Which basically means if you're aspiring to become a CTO, a CIO, a CDO, a CISO, a chief operating officer, a CMO, a CFO, or any other C-suite role, then you shouldn't be missing this opportunity. I'm planning a physical event in Bangalore. Mark your calendar, it's on May 3rd. But before that, we're going to have 5 days where we're actually going to be mentoring you and giving you quizzes and preparing you for what is to come on the 6th day, which is May 3rd, Bangalore. So what I want you to do is, without wasting any time, click on the link below and book your ticket right away, because I can tell you, as it fills up, the ticket prices are going to go up. So don't miss this opportunity. Click, buy your ticket, and I'm really looking forward to seeing you. Hi, I'm Muditsaxena. I'm a global CXO leadership coach. I work with leaders across the country and I've impacted thousands of leaders across the world. In our community, people have become CEOs, people have become CXOs. Many people earn more than 1 CR. People have got 100% jump. People have got, within the company, they've got jumps. So whether it's a salary increase, a promotion, you name it, you're going to find it in my community. And that's why I want you to welcome you to come in here. And I want you to build your network so that you are able to get opportunities which are not readily advertised. So come here, build your network, learn from the best, and I hope to see you in Bangalore on May 3rd. Take care till we meet again. Okay, goodbye. See you guys. And we're now winding up.